Hi everyone. I saw a few questions about sewing knit fabrics. And so I figured I could answer a few of those questions. I did have a Brother machine, but I actually recently upgraded to this lovely piece of machinery. And there's pros and cons to doing this. But most of your sewing you can do on just a simple Singer Brother sewing machine. So I have a few fancy stitches on this that allow me to sew knits a little bit easier, and I will show those to you, but I will also show you some of the stitches that you could use on just a regular everyday domestic machine. Please bear with me. I am not usually recording stuff, so it's going to be a little tricky. Now, if you don't have a nice cover stitch machine, so a cover stitch is what typically a lot of knits are hemmed with. So on my shirt, you see how it has the double stitch. Don't mind all the toys at my feet. But you see the back where it has a lot of give, a lot of extra thread. A cover stitch machine does this. I don't currently have a cover stitch machine, so I get by with a couple of different ways. One of the ways, and I was doing this on my Brother, I can't do it on this machine, so that's one of the drawbacks to this machine. I can once I have an attachment for it, but I don't have that yet. You can get what's called a double needle. And this is the one I actually used. I took it to the store and I matched it to the width. This little twin needle. And you would take this needle out. If you go and unscrew this, the needle drops straight down. This portion goes straight into there. You then thread your machine normally. So you would have this go, and this goes down and through here, and then it would go through one of the needles. The other thread I would have on a spool. There's an attachment that goes here that I don't have yet, that I would put here. And that thread would go through all of this, just like the main thread. And the difference is you don't put it in this little piece. It would hang out and then go down into the second needle. What that stitch does is this. So it looks like a cover stitch. The difference is it does a zigzag on the back. The downfall to this is sometimes, depending on the fabric, especially thinner knits, this will kind of bulge up and it will kind of pull together. To get by, you have to actually loosen the tension down in here. Unfortunately, most domestic machines, you cannot adjust the tension in there. You're only able to adjust your tension on this. So I can on this machine, but most domestic machines, you're not going to be able to. So that's the downfall to that one. The other style of hemming, this is some of my projects going on that I do, I have a stretch stitch. So that stretch stitch is similar to a zigzag. So zigzag, this stretch stitch kind of does this as it stitches. And I can actually get a stitch pretty in line. And it looks like a tiny zigzag. And if you don't have the stretch stitch option, you can make this with a zigzag. So when you hem with this stitch, this is what it looks like. So it kind of does look like a zigzag. I can actually narrow this where it end up looking straight. And this is what it looks like on the back. So it too has its benefits and its downfalls. The downfall to it is you're more likely, if you don't leave this area large enough, if you do it too close to the end here, it'll actually end up flipping up and drying in the wash. And the only way you could fix that is letting it air dry and then pulling it down and getting it to stay like that, or you'd have to iron it. So everything kind of has its pros and its cons. So how do you know if you have the stretch stitch? On my machine, this is what the icon looks like. Most of your standard machines do not have this stitch. They have this stitch, which is the zigzag. And I'll show you real quick the difference in how it stitches. I do enough sewing that I determined I needed a fancy machine, but I do a lot of other stuff than clothes. So see how it kind of pulls it back and forth? It does go back and forth a little bit. I can actually adjust that where it doesn't as much. So that's the stretch stitch, which I'll show you the difference here in a minute. Now let's go to the zigzag. So this is your standard, zigzag stitch. I'm not gonna mess with the settings right now yet. So you see how it goes back and forth. You notice the fabric isn't moving back and forth this way. So it's just zigzagging side to side. And I can go and I can make adjustments where I can make it smaller. So I'm going to make it narrower. I think, sorry if I'm shaky. So see, much tighter, but it's still doing zigzag. Then I can make my distance. So how tight my stitches are. Now, let's take a look. This is one of the reasons why I like this machine so much. It cuts the thread for me. And so, here, bear with me. Okay, so this stitch, let me get it to, So this is the stretch stitch. That's where I adjusted it and made it smaller. So it's almost a straight line there. This is zigzag. That was the standard. And then I made it narrower and I made it tighter. So you can do that. And this would be the stitch you use. The reason why is you see how I can at least stretch the fabric and the thread doesn't break. If I go and use a standard straight stitch, so this would be typical, if I turned on most domestic machines, this is what it would be. This is a straight stitch. And then let me see if I can, what will happen, I need two hands. There you go. You hear the snap? It took two hands to do it though. But this is what happens. The thread breaks because there's no give. The fabric is stretching, but the thread can't. So that is why you need at least a zigzag stitch. Now, most of my sewing of knits, if I'm making something, like these are shorts with a skirt, a little skirt that I am in the process of making for my daughter and I. Most of my stuff is serged. So serger by far has the cleanest look. But if you don't have a serger, a zigzag stitch is more than enough. And right now, I don't have anything to hem. Well, I do have these to hem, but but I don't have a dress right now to hem because I'm actually waiting on a different machine. I'm treating myself. Why not? Oh, and the other thing I wanted to show y'all. So these little clips. Most of the time you use little needles. These little clips are a lifesaver when doing and clipping knits together. It's just so much easier. Here's some of mine. I have more. The downfall is the kids like to play with them too. So, well, I hope that answers most of y'all's questions. Here is my very old serger. And while she may be old, she is a beast. But if you have any more questions, I can do another video. I can show you a few other things. And maybe I plan on when I get the romper that I'm getting in, and I'm going to actually adjust it to my size, I can actually show y'all how to adjust clothing to fit yourself. So have fun. Bye.